Hi guys, today we're going to be looking at the Invasion of the Body Snatchers 1956. So not the 1978 and not the 2007, the 1956, the best take out of all of them. So let's set the stage for what was going on. Basically, this was during the Cold War. So the Cold War was a no battlefield type of war, and it was very, like Battle of the Minds. So there wasn't a whole lot of fighting or a whole lot of muskets or anything like that. But basically, it started after the Second World War. After the Soviet Union and the United States broke up, the allyship ended. They stopped being friends, and the Soviets expanded their communist regime into Europe and eventually East Germany. And the United States just said, no, we can't have this. So they started putting out the Truman Doctrine in 1947, the Marshall Plan, stuff like that. And those basically protected the countries that they were trying to take over. So that really started something between them. It started the arms race. And we ramped up our nuclear forces to try to match up with theirs, and we tried to develop our ballistic sectors and the space race. So it was really a whole competition going on. McCarthyism affected many facets of the American life, and the Senator McCarthy was really feeding into people's anxieties that the communism was going to come for us. And the House Un-American Activities, founded in 1938, was really dead set on unmasking communists in the federal government, and this was backed up by the Loyalty Order in 1947 by President Harry S. Truman that mandated basically the evaluation of federal employees to vet if they were loyal or not, if they were communists or not. So the decade goes on, Mao Zedong took over China. The Soviet Union tested their successful nuclear weapon. Big deal. Americans started to freak out. They're like, oh my God, they're actually going to come for us. It's bad. And all these beliefs with J. Edgar Hoover, the, director of the FBI, saying, oh, the communists, they're terrible. It was making them really nervous. It was making them very jumpy. They were very scared. And both political parties, elected officials, were very anti-communist. So the left it was just left anti-communist, right anti-communist. So it was a lot of conservatism. So the climate was really harsh. People were very polarized, and they were sometimes fired for just being suspected of being communists. And Hollywood took a big shift. Formerly, Hollywood was making these movies, with the Soviet Union, Mission to Moscow. They were friends during the World War. So it was a big flip to say, you cannot do any of this. The HUAC completely made them renounce all type of communism, or else they were considered to be communist propaganda films and communist, sympathizers, and they were persecuted for that. So in 1947, the HUAC basically got 10 film producers, writers, and directors, known as the Hollywood 10, and got them to testify saying, oh, this isn't, we hate communism, and they refused to answer, they refused to testify, so they were completely blacklisted from the industry without any evidence. So the 40s and 50s were really dangerous to be making anything that wasn't strictly anti-communist. So everything was sending a conservative message, including the film by Don Siegel, which is a classic cautionary tale. I really recommend this movie. There's something for everyone. There's romance, the reconnection of old flames from high school and college that come back together after their first failed marriages with other people and come together. It's also a tragedy. There's tough parts. You can get, just from the name, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's going to be very fear-inducing, okay? With this climate, everyone was thinking, the communists are going to sneak up on us. They're going to, get in our minds. And this is the idea that the government and, the conservative ideal was trying to pump into the brains of the day-to-day Americans. That they were going to fall out of the sky, like they say in the movie, and just kind of jump into your mind and take over you and change you. So this was a really scary time for these people, and this movie really reflects it. It's fantastic. I'm confident that I'm not going to, have my mind taken over by communists, but honestly, this movie made me a little bit nervous. I was like, oh my God, when did that seed pod get there? I had a little wink to those who've seen the movie. But yeah. Let's hear it for Becky's costuming. Girl looks fantastic. I will leave this final point. There is a line in the movie. It says, "They're already here! You're next!" enough said. They were terrified. And you can honestly still feel that fear now and the pain that they were feeling. It's so stressful. I really recommend it. And then watch the 1978 one. Chef's kiss. Fantastic. There was an outro scene in the 1978 one that's not in the 1956 one. I did think that it was really good. And I think that there's an alternate universe in which that could have happened in the 1956 one. Who knows? Enough said. It did get 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. So when you're watching it, just consider it is 97% red. Okay? Have a good watching. Bye!